we jump in, I want to take a minute to acknowledge our new name, Perpetual Resources, for those that knew us as Midas Gold. We hope you like our new name, which we believe better reflects our values and vision. And our vision is to develop and operate one of the highest grade open pit gold mines in the country, provide the U.S. with a source of the critical mineral antimony, and restore an abandoned mining site, brownfield site. The name was also a nod to Idaho state motto, Esto Perpetua, meaning let it be perpetual, in reference to Idaho's great natural resources. So as we enter our next chapter, it is time to have a new name that better reflects our future. And with that, I'll quickly point out our disclaimers on the next slide. Why Perpetua Resources? Quite simply, our investment thesis has never been stronger. First and foremost, we plan to redevelop one of the largest, lowest cost and long life gold projects in the U.S. Given our low costs, the Stibnite Gold Project has great economics with a 15-year reserve life and less than a 3-year payback period. And we have a valuable byproduct in antimony, which is a critical mineral. Perpetua could help reestablish the primary production of antimony in the U.S. and supply more than 35% of the country's demand. Our project is also located in one of the best mining jurisdictions in the world, and we have strong community support. The strong support we have in Idaho has been built over the past decade as our communities and politicians have seen our commitment to responsible mining and the restoration at Stibnite. We are well positioned to deliver environmental solutions and create value for all of our stakeholders. Before we look at the project details, I just want to take a minute to mention one of the many reasons we are so unique. We will take an area abandoned after 100 years of mining activity, most of which was to support World War II and the Korean War, and use a sustainable approach to restore the environment and develop a modern mining project with critical mineral production. We get to solve environmental issues through funding and development of our world-class asset. In the next couple of slides, we will walk through project highlights. The Stibnite project is one of the largest independent gold reserves in the United States, with 4.8 million ounces, and is the 7th largest reserve out of all U.S. gold deposits. In total, we have 6 million ounces of measured and indicated resources, with an additional 1.2 million ounces of inferred resources. This slide does not include the significant antimony endowment, which has reserves of 148 million pounds and 206 million pounds in measured and indicated resources. When it comes to open pit gold mines, we have one of the highest gold grade projects, with approximately 2.2 grams per ton in the first 4 years of production and an average of 1.4 grams per ton over the 15-year mine life. Our annual gold production will average approximately 300,000 ounces per year life of mine, and more than 460,000 ounces per year in the first 4 years, which would make it the largest producing mine in the U.S. outside of the Nevada Gold Mines joint venture. The Stibnite project has a low strip ratio at approximately 2.5 to 1, and combined with the high grade nature of the deposit as well as the antimony byproduct, we will be the lowest quartile of the global cost curve. Life of mine all-in sustaining costs will average less than $650 per ounce, and in the first 4 years will be less than $450 per ounce. All of these factors will allow the mine to generate strong free cash flows averaging $500 million per year over the 15-year life. Our project's free cash flow profile demonstrates exceptional values at different gold prices as well. Using our base 1,600 gold price, the project has an NPV of greater than $1.3 billion using a 5% discount rate and delivers an internal rate of return of more than 22%. We have good leverage to higher gold prices as well, where the NPV increases to approximately $1.9 billion at an $1,850 gold price. But most importantly, our project is resilient to lower gold prices, given our solid position on the cost curve. Based on our current market cap of $400 million, we are trading at nearly the widest discount to NAV, despite achieving significant milestones in the last 6 months. At current prices, our stock is trading at just over 20% of our net asset value. We believe this represents a very attractive entry price for new investors. The U.S. Department of Interior have defined critical minerals as metals and non-metals essential to economic and national security, which we are vulnerable to supply chain disruptions. Antimony has been identified as one of these 35 critical minerals, given the U.S. has no primary production, and China, Russia, and Tajikistan dominate the world's supply with more than 90% of the global production. Historically, antimony has been used for properties of strengthening alloys and making them resistant to corrosion and as a flame retardant. Currently, antimony is being used in bearings for wind and hydroturbines, tinting for solar panels, cell phones, semiconductors, plastics, and cable sheathing. And looking forward, it is being tested for the development in large storage batteries. The United States isn't the only country that has deemed antimony a critical mineral. Earlier this month, Canada published their critical minerals list, and antimony was included, following in the footsteps of Europe, Australia, and the US. Antimony's supply side risk is exactly why we welcome President Biden's executive order in late February on securing America's critical supply chain. His order outlined that supply chain risks and policy recommendations are to be brought forward over the next 100 days regarding semiconductor manufacturing, high-capacity batteries, critical minerals, and pharmaceuticals. Antimony is a key mineral in 3 out of these 4 areas. The recent executive order is a key indicator that the need for domestic critical mineral production is an issue with bipartisan support. We are encouraged by the recognition that responsible domestic sourcing of minerals like antimony is essential to building a resilient supply chain and a stronger, more sustainable American future. And Perpetua can help secure the U.S. production of this critical mineral. In fact, our project alone could supply more than 35% of the annual U.S. demand over our first 6 years of production. Perpetua can play a key role in establishing domestic antimony production and protecting America's energy and defense future. It's a known fact that the transition to a greener economy is going to be very mineral intensive. The multiple end uses for antimony combined with the concentrate shortages and tight supply has already driven the price up more than 90% over the past 12 months, demonstrating its strategic value as a metal in the future. Domestic production of critical minerals will allow the U.S. to secure the supplies we need for a lower carbon future. Perpetual Resources restoration and mitigation plans provide early action on water quality, legacy features, as well as a concurrent restoration and reclamation for any new disturbance. The project will ultimately improve water quality, restore fish passage that has been blocked for decades, and clean up legacy tailings and waste sites. I personally have been a lifelong advocate for conservation, and my passion is in environmental restoration. I believe strongly that industry and the environment can and must work together to restore the site. Early this year, we were able to further demonstrate our commitment to restoration when we signed the Administrative Settlement and Order on Consent. This agreement is necessary to allow us to voluntarily address the environmental conditions at the abandoned mine site without inheriting the liability of the conditions left behind by past operators. This historic agreement was signed by EPA, the U.S. Forest Service, with the concurrence of the U.S. Department of Justice, and included early actions to improve water quality. The immediate time-critical needs are addressed first over 4 years, and then additional phases allow for a more comprehensive site cleanup if the project's mine is approved. Before we move into our upcoming milestones, I think it's important to provide some context which will help frame how investors can think about where we are today. For those that haven't followed us, we began our environmental study work and feedback gathering in 2010. And then in 2016, we submitted our plan of restoration and operations to the U.S. Forest Service, which kicked off 4 years of regulatory review under the NEPA process. We continue to gather feedback and advanced environmental review and submitted a modified PRO in 2019. Then in 2020, the Forest Service released the draft environmental impact statement with a 75-day comment period. There were 10,000 letters received, and about 85% of the letters were positive towards the project. Today, the Forest Service is reviewing those comments, refining and improving the project before they present a final EIS and draft record of decision, which we expect by the end of the third quarter of this year. So over the last decade, we have been diligently and thoughtfully advancing our study work and progressing through the permitting process while continually improving and refining our project. Throughout the presentation today, I've covered several of our recent achievements. I would also just highlight that we were approved to list on the NASDAQ earlier this year and have now been trading on the exchange since mid-February. Our liquidity has more than doubled in our first month, and we expect this milestone to continue paying dividends well into the future by giving us greater access to capital. And we could see significant demand for our shares as we become eligible for index inclusion. Other near-term milestones include that we expect to receive our final environmental impact statement and draft record of decision in Q3 of 2020, with a final record of decision by the end of this year, followed by ancillary permits and project financing in 2022. Despite all of our recent achievements and near-term catalysts, we continue to be significantly undervalued relative to our peer group, with nearly all of the pre-permitted projects trading at a multiple of 2 to 3 times where we are trading. And some fully permitted companies trade at significant premiums to their net asset value. We expect a significant re-rating to occur as we advance through the permitting process, but also believe that there's room to grow today as we begin to share our investment thesis with a broader investor group who recognize the strategic value of our asset for its antimony, as well as thematic investors looking for companies that are making a true difference environmentally. So wrapping up, Perpetual Resource is unique because we bring solutions. We have a large, low-cost, high-grade open-pit gold mine. We will offer the only domestic mine source of the critical mineral antimony, and we will use mine development to fund restoration at an abandoned mine site. Not only is our opportunity unique, but it is also the right time. Our company is trading at a mere 21% of our project's value at $1,850 gold prices. And we have so many exciting milestones and catalysts just around the corner after a decade of engineering work, stakeholder feedback, and regulatory review. As we hit our permitting milestones, we expect our valuation to significantly improve, creating value for our long-term shareholders.